Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Call to Coaching podcast. This podcast is brought to you by MW Outdoor Power and Engine Repair. We've got American-made bad boy mowers. We got weed eaters, chainsaws, leaf blowers, you name it, they got it in there. If they ain't got it in there, ask them and they can get it for you. I'm absolutely sure. They are awesome folks. They've also got Traeger grills, smokers, flat tops, the whole thing. They've got accessories. If you need a place to buy all the good pellets, they've got all the good smoker pellets. If you've never used a Traeger, you owe it to yourself. Go do it. I put it off forever, and then I got one, and I use the fire out of this thing. We cook up everything. I love doing it. It makes smoking not easy, but easier. As close to easy as you're going to get, because you're going to put some time in to make some good food. But that's what makes it good. So go by there and treat yourself. Treat yourself to a Traeger. You know you want to. Go do it. Tell Russell and Edie and Luke I sent you. The muffler shop can change your oil. They can do they can work on your car. Swing by there and check them out and give them a holler and tell them I sent you. Right behind them, on the other side, on Muskogee, this is 217 West Muskogee. They are 212 West Broadway. This is 217 West Muskogee. Go over there and check out Bromide Mountain. If you've got a Christmas list that has just cool stuff on it, then that stuff's going to be in Bromide Mountain. They got Burley Bow. They've got Patagonia. If you've got high school boys, they've got the Honey Hole. If you've got grown men, they've got Honey Hole. Go buy their hats, shirts. You name it, they got it. Men's apparel in there is great. We needed that for sulfur, so that's awesome. They've got men's, women's, kids, you name it, house decorations, soaps, lotions, the whole thing. So just go in there, get your women's sizes before you go, because then you're in that awkward spot of standing there going, I don't know what the size is. Look what they got now. Go in there, tell Jade or the girls in there, hey, this is what they wear, this is what size, this is my budget, and they will fix you right up. You can get your whole Christmas list done right there. Moms, grandmas, wives, daughters, bam, done. One-stop shop, Bromide Mountain. Go check them out. Gary Ashford, thank you so much for supporting this podcast. You don't know what it means to me, and I promise I will have you on a cooking gig for FCA ASAP. I can't wait. All right, this week is a little different, y'all. This episode's a little different. I'm going to check my time. All right, perfect. This episode is a little different because this episode is basically what inspired this podcast. I've told you guys that this podcast was inspired by a conversation with a coach. Well, this podcast, I get to hang out and interview two of the people who inspired that coach. I'm hanging out this week with Mrs. Coach Dixon and Reggie Dixon. We had such a good time. Amy wasn't there with us. The one thing I did learn, I thought Amy was like probably 10 to 15 years younger than Reggie. But she's not. They're right there close together. But my goodness, y'all. What a wealth of knowledge Miss Dixon is to anyone who is married to a coach or related to a coach or anything like that. Gosh, this podcast meant so much to me that I did it twice. The first time I forgot to record it. So that's how good I am at what I do. So, but they were nice enough and kind enough to come do it again. So we had a practice run and it was great too. But this somehow was better. They were so kind to share their dad and their husband for so many years, and they understand the influence that Coach Dixon was having on kids that spread out across this country. You can look at Coach Dixon's coaching tree, and it's over 30, maybe 50. Like, he was such an influence to this county, and especially this town. So it was just a blessing for me, and it was so much fun, and man, what a guy. And you can tell by the kids he raised that, and I say kids, and I'm not just talking about Reggie and Amy. He raised a bunch of kids. But that's what happens when you sign up to be a coach. And it was just such a special episode for me. So I hope you guys love it. I know you will. And hang around to the end because it's really good. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this podcast, for watching this podcast this year, for coming up and saying hi and all those things, man. It makes my day every time. So, all right, I won't put it off any longer. Mrs. Dixon and Reggie Dixon. Here we go. All right, well, let's get going so we can get y'all off to a basketball game. So just to let everybody know a little bit, this is number 2. We've done this already, but my producer really screwed everything up. He didn't pay attention to what was going on, and when we got back trying to edit it, none of it was working. My producer is also me. I'm the only one that does anything in this. So I bought some new stuff, and I don't know how to work it. And we did a great podcast already, and then it didn't have any sound. So Reggie's going to have the video version of that one, and then we're going to have another great version of this one. So this will be episode 10 of Called to Coaching. Today, I'm so excited to be sitting with you guys. I'm sitting with Mrs. Dixon and Reggie Dixon, and the reason this podcast exists is because of Coach Dixon. And so I've told everybody on this before when I started doing this. The reason I did this is because of a conversation I had with Coach Dixon outside the locker room about Joe McDaniel, and turned into the coolest conversation I've ever had with Coach Dixon. And so I'm so thankful that y'all come on and visit with me. And we'll try to make it like the first time again, but now it's the second time. So thank y'all for being here. Y'all got a basketball tournament to go to. So this is grandkid number 3, and we're going to Paul's Valley to watch a little basketball. We had JV basketball last night in Lexington. We've had football all year long. This is not out of the ordinary for you, is it?
And then Ayler Friday.
Yeah.
And then Acer maybe Friday and Saturday, depend on how they do. So we're on the go.
Yeah. How long have you been on the go watching sporting events?
Well, before Coach Dixon and I were married, we went to all the high school games at Marlowe, basketball, football, and some track, lots of baseball, and that's just been our life.
So this is just another day.
Just another adventure, I guess.
I've been here about 15 minutes, and 2 grandkids have already called to check, and one of them called looking for some money. We won't call Allie out on the air, but she called looking for some lunch money, and Dad give her a hard time. So this is just regular. This is nothing out of the ordinary. They're traveling.
That's nothing. Yes.
So let's go back in time before all the traveling started. Marlowe girl,
Marlowe boy. We were high school sweethearts, dated forever until we got married in July of 71, and then we moved over here in July of 72, and been here ever since.
Ever since?
Love it.
What caught your eye about Coach Dixon? I mean, he wasn't Coach Dixon then. What caught your eye about?
He was just kind of like I want to say kind of a smart aleck, maybe. Kind of a...
Not him.
Not him, but, he was like, typical high school boy, wanted to flirt with you and talk to you. So I took the bait, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you did.
Thank you.
So you can hold your own.
Oh, yeah.
Because of your spot in the family order, right?
Right.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yes, I'm number 3 daughter.
Yeah.
And 2 older, which we were like 36 months apart.
Yeah.
And then they waited 7 years, and along came Terry and just, kicked me out of the cradle, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And so Terry's just a little bit younger than you, but we talked a little bit last time that you and Coach Dixon and Cliff and Terry was great traveling buddies all through the years. And
oh, yeah. We'd always find somewhere to go, and Clifford and Dixon would get into a whatever.
I can only imagine.
You're supposed to go right. No, you're supposed to go left. And Terry and I just kind of sit there and let them, fight it out, figure out which way to go.
Okay. So Coach Dixon caught your eye at Marlowe.
At Marlowe, yes.
And then he went on to play a little college sports. And
He did. He went to Knox College on a football scholarship,
yeah.
which was tri-semester, and he stuck it out the first semester and ended up with a D, and he'd never made anything lower than a A, and it was in Spanish. So he came home Thanksgiving and said, I'm done.
Not going back to
Not
that
going
mess.
back. So then he went to Weatherford and went 2 years there and then finished out at Cameron after we got married.
Okay.
And then from Cameron, we moved over here.
How did Coach Dixon pop the question? Do you remember? I'm sure it was like bunches of candles and everybody was there prepared. And
I ain't ever heard this, so I mean.
Do you know Coach Dixon? It's
I'm sure
I got your ring. You want it?
Yeah, I see all the elaborate proposals we have nowadays, and I just know that Coach Dixon.
Well, he
just
wasn't
loved
very
that.
romantic. He was sweet and lovable, and always told me he loved me and gave me a kiss when he was leaving, and said, like, I'll be home at 5. So I'd say, yeah, that means 9. So, which is, that was fine. So he got home when he got finished, and he was definitely the first one there and the last one to leave.
Yeah.
So that was just him. He'd always think of something. Maybe he needed to relook at something that he had seen that he wanted to check it out again, or put another load of laundry in the dryer or the washer, or come home and then eat and then decide he had to go back and move them from whatever, the washer or the dryer. And so whatever, I was used to it. So.
Yeah. So he just showed up with the ring and said, hey, look here.
Yeah, look here. Now, we can't get married tomorrow, but we... So, and my daddy and mama were fine with him.
Yeah.
So, since I was number 3 to leave, they were probably kind of pretty glad.
So then y'all got married while he was in college.
Right. And he finished out the last year at Cameron, and he helped at high school in Marlowe.
Yeah.
And Carl Melson was there at the time. And he said, if I ever leave, I'm taking you with me. And so sure enough, Sulphur opened that summer, like in April or May, and Carl came over here because Carl was a hometown Sulphur boy.
Yeah.
And he came over here, and Calvin Agee hired him, and he called Dixon at the time, and he said, I got you a job. And he said, well, he said, all you got to do is come over here and interview. So he came over here and visited with Calvin and the school board, and they hired him. So the rest is history.
Turned out to be a pretty good hire, I think. I feel like everybody in Sulphur would say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, most people would.
Well, I think I've heard in many coaching circles, like, if everybody loves you, you're not doing it right. And I think that I heard that from Gary Chaffin, who heard that from Coach Dixon.
Probably. Yeah, if you're not making somebody mad, you're not doing your job.
Yeah. Which is, we need a little more. I mean, that we could stand a little more of that in today's world. I promise you. It makes for better employees. I can tell you that, because Coach Dixon sent some really good, not only employees but a lot of good coaches out from Sulphur. So I think that stands to his record of what kind of a coach he was, and a great mentor.
And we talked after the last time. How many did you ever figure out?
Well, I found a sheet of paper. That was another thing I've been going through notes. I found notes from 1984 that when he was in track, did track.
Yeah.
The times and all that. And I came across another note and I think there was 36 at that time.
Oh my gosh.
And that was about, I think, 5 years ago, maybe 6. So I'm sure they've been added
got a few
to
more
since then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, that's amazing. I mean, that really brings to light that deal of the Billy Graham quote, of a coach will influence more kids in a day than most of us will in a lifetime. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, I've already been through this once. I don't know if y'all have, but I want to jump ahead. But let's go back. So y'all get married. He gets the job over at Sulphur. Comes over. It was such a glorious time. He only had to coach one sport, and he was.
Yeah.
Y'all ate dinner at 5 o'clock every night.
Oh, yeah. One sport all day, every day. He coached 7th, 8th, and 9th football, him and Joe McDaniels, and then he assisted a high school football. So,
Yeah.
And then the same when basketball rolled around, he had 7th, 8th, and 9th, and it was like, oh my goodness. He drove the bus, and which he says made him extra $10, or we were so poor that we couldn't have made it without his, 20 trips a month, which was almost true.
Yeah, I bet. I've heard the story that he used to load all the kids up and take them to the FCA game day.
Yes.
At OU. He would drive the bus up there.
They did.
I
Yes.
was John O was telling me about some stories about Coach Dixon, and they're just so funny. But so when did he take over the head coaching job here at Sulphur? Do y'all remember?
Amy was born in 1975, and she was a baby, so
Yeah.
it had to be 1976.
Okay.
I have it, and then I found a picture when we're out there on the football field and we're waiting on Justin to quit hugging Coach Dixon so he can come over and see Amy and I. And she was I was holding her all wrapped up in a blanket.
Yeah.
So she was a baby.
Yeah. Wow.
And then shortly thereafter, this one showed up.
Hey, this is the most shocking thing.
I had two babies.
I
at
thought he
one
was
time.
way older than Amy. I thought Amy was way younger than him.
Oh, she'll love that. No, they're 17 months apart.
17 months apart.
2 bottles, 2 diapers. Both
Oh,
of them had
smokes.
2 babies. I just stayed at home. I mean, literally stayed at home.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, 17 months apart.
Yes.
Wow.
He brought Reggie home from the hospital and kissed us and kissed Amy, and he was off to a ball game. But before I went to get him, I had to stop by the practice field and say, it's time to go have this baby. So he said, well, I'll be home in a minute. So he came home and took a shower and shaved and stopped and bought gas,
And you were ready to go.
I was ready to go, yeah. But I patiently waited again on him, and we went to Ada and had this feller.
So Reggie, you've been a lifelong Sulphur resident.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you're a lifer.
yeah. And I left one time and I came back.
Yeah. That was when you moved way off.
Yeah, I moved way off. I moved to Ada and to Ardmore, and it didn't either one last very long.
I was thinking, hang on, I was trying to figure out where he'd gone.
That's when I met Reggie. Was in
okay.
Ada.
Oh,
I showed up
okay.
to Ada, and I think Reggie was on the way out of Ada, but I was on the way in. And was Billboard living with you or something? Yeah, I remember that. That's when I met, and they were like, that's Coach Dixon's son. And I was like, oh, my goodness, because I can remember Coach Dixon as a Davis kid. Coach Dixon was kind of like a mythical figure. We held coaches in very high regard, or I do. And so, like, Coach Dixon's been over at Sulphur forever. And he's won a lot of ball games, and they beat the brakes off of us a time or two when I was in school. And so, Coach Dixon was like almost a mythical figure, except I don't know if I could have picked him out of a lineup. I just looked over there and I was like, oh no, I don't want to make anybody mad over there. So, as a lifelong Sulphur resident, what's it been like? What was it like growing up with your dad as the coach of everything?
Man, I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Really. But I knew, you really don't know what he's done until you kind of get away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
And even after he's passed, you see people and they'll come up to you and they'll just thank you. Hey, thanks for sharing your dad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, you are sharing your dad. Your dad was not only your dad, but he was like a dad to...
No, he's like a dad to all those kids, even the coaches.
Yeah.
Because most of those coaches down there played for him.
Yeah. Yeah,
and even the ones that didn't play for him, they hold so much respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys that come in and they would, kind of like Cleet said on his podcast, man, they don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah.
So they'd work hard and get after it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's kind of like I was, I mean, I didn't want to disappoint my dad. Of course, nobody does,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Coach Patterson talked about coaching his kids. I asked him last week about coaching his kiddos, and he said, it's just a real fine line, he said, because I didn't want to anybody think I wasn't being as hard on him as I was, but I didn't want to have to go home and know that I'd been too hard on him, because that's not good.
That is a fine line, yes.
Yeah.
That he's good enough to play, but yet you got Johnny over here that's playing, and if you put, him in place of Johnny, then you got a mama or a daddy or whoever mad. So it was hard, very hard. Hard on him, hard on Coach, hard on me.
Yeah.
Even Amy.
Oh, yeah.
It was
she
hard
had to hear it too, didn't she?
She had to, when she was home and, it all came home, it was like, ugh.
And like I told you last time, if it wouldn't been for Ducky Day, I probably wouldn't have got to play much.
Yeah.
Coach Day was there for you. I think Coach Day was there for me. He went to bat.
Coach Day was in there going, I don't care what they say.
But I knew I was going to have to work harder than everybody else. And,
Yeah.
You got to show up and you got to be there. And I always didn't do and say the right things, but and I mean, I screwed up on the field and in life, but I mean, he was always there. He loved me.
Yeah.
Anytime I screwed up, he'd say, hey, did you learn a lesson? I mean,
Yeah.
and it was always a learning opportunity type deal.
Yeah.
Hey, you learn your lesson, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And I mean, he gave a lot of second chances.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids probably needed a second chance, and he knew they needed it, and that's why he gave it to them.
Yeah. I think it was Coach Chaffin that was talking about Coach Dixon taught him when it's not the time to get them when they've lost a game they should have won. It's the time to get them when they've won a game, but they kind of didn't win it like they should have. That's when you get them. But when they've lost, you just love on them.
Yeah.
And it's not really the only way you really lose is if you don't learn from it. I thought that was such great advice he gave to Coach Chaffin.
Coach them hard and love them later, I think is what he said.
Yeah. So how was it on you all those years being a coach's wife in the stands?
Well, at first it was kind of hard, and then I kind of just settled into my top spot in front of the press box. And, if somebody chose to be negative or whatever, I kind of learned to swallow my pride and hold my tongue and listen.
That's tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, I guess they have the right to go and, complain if they had a complaint. But if they had a complaint, they should have addressed it to somebody or anyway. It's hard.
Yeah.
It really is.
Absolutely. We talked about this a little bit last time too, but I always, people will come to me to talk to me about coaches. I don't know why they think I have any kind of just the FCA guy. Like, I don't know, Well, can you believe he did that? I'm like, well, I've seen your kid play. I'm sorry. But anyway, I digress. I can't say that because I'm the FCA guy. But We talked a little bit about like how coaches keep their circles so small, you know, and it's like their friend circle is usually family a lot, and it's just a tight circle because of, you know, eventually it comes down to that conversation of, well, you know, I really thought little Johnny could have done something the other night in the ball game, but you didn't put him in. It's just like, well, we wonder why they keep their circle small.
Exactly.
You know,
you can go out to eat with a coach and you can laugh about things, you know, good or bad that's happened, where if you go with somebody else, they can, you know, well, I think if you'd, you know, run this or done that, it would have been different. Or if Susie or Sally or, you know, Johnny or whoever had been in there, you know, they would have, things would have turned out different.
Yeah.
But, you know, a coach's family, they usually don't, you know, we had lots of fun, coaches' families do, but, you know, just probably talking about other things than sports.
Than coaching.
Than coaching.
One of the things I loved y'all talked about last time was, and Coach Patterson talked about this too because he was also a coach's kid. Coach's clinic was vacation time.
Well, amen. Amen.
And he said we was always mad when it was in the city because we wanted to travel.
To go to Tulsa.
I think they knew where the fire alarm was on every floor. And, you know, as soon as, and if we were ever in we'd have a luncheon or a dinner or something, the fire alarm would go off, we'd all go, okay, where's yours? Mine's supposed to be with his daddy, or, you know, like trying to figure out. And I think a time or two we might have, you know, had a reason to worry.
That Amy. I don't know.
Oh, that Amy, I know.
She do all kinds of stuff.
You never knew about her.
I gotta, while we're on the subject of wondering where Reggie's at. Last time you told a story about a mama coming into the bleachers.
Yes.
Looking for somebody's mama.
Yes.
Do you remember that story?
Oh, I do. Definitely. We were at a track meet, and of course he was running wild as usual, and there was a heavy-set lady that came running, you know, walking through the bleachers going, does anybody know who a Richie or Reggie or something in a Blake's mamas are? And Marilyn Cole and I kind of went, you go that way and I'll go this way. And so they were running up and down in the cars throwing Cheetos in the car, and she happened to be sitting there and she was tired of it.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't
No,
either.
he doesn't remember any of his stories.
Listen, if the worst thing we ever do is throw Cheetos in a car, hey,
Got her made.
we got it made.
You got it made.
So when Reggie was throwing Cheetos and all those ornery things, did you get him or did you say, wait till your dad gets home?
Oh, probably a little of both. I'd just say, get out of here. You know, I came to watch the track meet or, you know, ball game, and we lost him one night at a state basketball game. We were looking around. He goes, where's Reggie? And I thought, I don't know. And we started looking around. We go, there he is up on the very top floor, just circling. So he went one way and I went the other, and we got him, you know.
Got him corralled.
Yeah.
He's still making laps, you know?
Yeah, I know. And I think we did the same thing to Acer one year, didn't we?
It's hard to sit still.
Yeah.
It is.
We lost Acer one year at the basketball game. You remember that? Yeah. So,
And then we was telling him one year, it was probably it had to be in the mid-'80s. We played over at Davis, and the bus left me and old Richard Norman over there. They left, and I was telling you, Coach Raper brought us home.
Yes.
Blake,
Did.
yeah, I'm telling Blake was sitting there waving at you as the bus.
There were some of them on the bus knew we were still there, and they just drove on out. Nobody'd say anything.
Mercy.
What did you do? Did you just go to the Davis coaches? And
No, they knew us. They knew who we were.
I bet that was a talkative ride all the way from.
No, I don't know if much was said. And I really think it was a little S10 pickup truck.
Oh, a little red one?
I can't remember the color, but I really think it just me and Coach Ray, Richard just in there, and then I was just thinking, man, I'm gonna get beat when I get back. I cannot believe this is happening.
Did y'all win or lose that ball game?
Man, I tell you what, we might have. I think we might have won that one for some reason.
That
it
might have made
been tough walking in there and saying, "Hey, can we get your rides offered?" Because back in they'd throw rocks and golf balls, and when you rode into town, there was some eggs going to be thrown at the vehicles.
Yep. And we probably did the same thing to y'all.
It was quite a rivalry.
It was equal. Yeah.
It was quite a rivalry. It's not like it is today. All the kids know each other.
Right.
But, we didn't really. It was quite a rivalry. I wish I could remember who I was talking to, and they said that they were part of it when it was shut down and they couldn't play because of all the stuff going on. I guess it was Mr.
Randall.
Cole.
It was Mr.
Yeah,
Cole.
it was Mr.
Yeah,
Cole.
Mr.
That's
Cole
what it was.
talking about it.
Yeah, and he couldn't. I said, golly. I mean, it was bad when we played, but.
Hey, I can remember one year, and I rode the bus with Dad to every game, and I was on the bus, and it was an old long yellow dog, and we got out there Midway Hill, and he told all the kids, "Hey, roll your windows, those old windows
slide them up."
Hey, I'll be danged. There was about 2 windows that didn't get up, and we came through right at Sooners parking lot, and there was a crowd of them. Oh man,
no.
Here it came. Eggs. Yeah, oh man, one right through the window, and it hit somebody. But it's like, hey, I tell you, roll the windows up. That's what you deserve. A lesson learned right there. I guarantee you, next year the kid rode his window. He put his window up.
I remember that when we rode over here dressed and ready to go. Like we'd get dressed in Davis, get on the bus. Yeah, warm up, get on the bus, come over here and play football. That was it. Yeah, those are good times. That would have made it. That was kind of a double-edged sword for you because you had to go in and ask somebody that just lost, but it made it a little better when you come home and they had won.
Yeah,
I mean,
He probably came home and said, "Mom, come get me."
Reggie's just barely old enough to beat the cell phone era, so
man, I'm so glad we didn't have to worry about those cell phones and stuff when I was in school.
Oh, I know, that's right.
That's what I was just telling. I was telling somebody last night, man, life was a lot easier back in the 80s and
yes, it was.
Early mid-90s.
Mm-hmm. We had it made. We didn't know them was the good old days.
Yeah.
We was living in them.
And I've heard my dad say 1,000 times, computers and cell phones are going to ruin the world. He
might be on something.
He's on track, I think.
I think so too. Okay, so we moved to Sulphur, and Reggie's rolling right on through school. Coach Dixon was the head football coach. How long did he do all the other stuff too? I mean,
like 6 years. He helped Dickie Norman with basketball.
Yeah.
And he helped Coach McDaniels with wrestling. And then he was the track coach, I think. The head track coach. There was always a coach from Hartshorn or that would call it. We'd host a track meet. When we did, he'd always call about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Dixon, is that track meet on? I'd say, yeah. So he'd always run the track meets off.
Yeah.
And those are an all day and all night.
Goodness.
I mean, you can't imagine how much work goes into those. And then, but he ended up finally, I guess when he, it was about what? I can't even remember. He retired, I think, in 2005. He was just doing football then. Yeah. And he was assistant principal.
Yeah.
And I think athletic director.
I was going to say
when he quit, when he retired the first time, he was assistant principal and athletic director.
Okay.
And the head coach. And, yeah.
And he had a pretty big hand if I'm correct, he had a pretty big hand in establishing powerlifting in the state of Oklahoma,
Oh,
didn't
I
he?
forgot about that. Yes, he did. Him, and I think there was 5 of them: Rick Clark, Rendell Cole, him, and 2 others, Fred Willis, and
You know,
yeah, that one I can't.
Reynolds.
Reynolds. Yeah.
Tim Reynolds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Coach Reynolds and Fred Willis, they were both at Pauls Valley at the time.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
when they had all them guys got together and put it together. And Conowall, Coach Cole,
Yeah.
Rendell, he had the first powerlifting meet in the state over there
They-
at Conowall because they had some.
They
nice
had the facilities, didn't they?
So, and he got inducted into that last. Oh,
That was about 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah, into the
2001.
powerlifting,
Yes.
Oklahoma Powerlifting Hall of
Uh-huh.
Fame.
Yes.
While we're on that, we'll come back. But while we're on that, he was in the Oklahoma Powerlifting Hall of Fame, the Oklahoma Coaches Hall of Fame. What else? He's in the National Coaches Hall of Fame. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, golly, I've got a
Forgot
picture.
that question.
I've got a
So,
picture of all the rings.
Yeah.
I'll put that up for everybody. And I don't think they're all in there. There's a few out, right?
No,
Reggie?
I
There's
got
a couple there.
I got
Yeah.
a couple.
So there's, I mean,
Don't tell Amy.
It's like, are you going to edit this part?
No, I got his favorite one.
yeah,
2002.
yeah.
His
What made
first
that
one.
his favorite, Reggie?
Man, that was his first one. He
Yeah, in
just
football.
worked all those years, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was tough. I mean, we'd got close, and he had some really good teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could have won it. And man, it was always just something go wrong, somebody get hurt.
One
you know,
point
just-
away from
just-
this or that.
Just always one possession away. You
Yeah.
know, just always something. And I mean, I think that made it better.
Yeah.
You know, when he finally got there.
Oh yeah. What was that? What was that win? I mean, he was just on cloud 9.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever came home. Really, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because we had, no, he must have come home, but I don't remember him being here because we had he brought the trophy home, then he probably went back to do laundry, if I was guessing. And people came in and out wanting to know if they could take a picture with the trophy.
And he just left it here.
So he left it here. So it's like, oh my
Like somebody was going to steal it.
yeah.
You were in charge of the
Yeah.
trophy pictures
Another,
the next
you know,
day.
Another thing to have to get to.
And so he won that one, and then again in 04,
Yeah.
and then just pile up the powerlifting ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a boatload of those.
03, we were runner up.
Yeah, 03 we went 02, won it, 3 runner up, and then 4 won it again.
Won it again, yes.
Yeah.
So
And we'd made it to the semis probably three or four times before we ever made it to the finals. And the first time we ever made it to the finals, we won it.
Yeah,
You know?
that's awesome.
And here's another deal about Dad. He loved to win games, but he loved to get, practice was his favorite time.
Yeah.
He loved to go to practice and spend time with those kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and like he said, he always said winning everything. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot bigger things out there than winning.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You know,
and he was like legendary status for his film study.
yeah.
People talk about how he watched film. Like, did he come home and just watch it in here? Just watch film all the time?
yeah, he was 24/7. Well, after the kids got gone, he would. I'd say, I don't care if you stay down there a little longer, but when you come home, come home to be at home.
Yeah.
And try to relax and have, do something other than sit there and watch film. But, I've been with him in places and he'll be sitting there and you'll be listening to like maybe Bill Preach or something. And he'll bend over and get one of those envelopes and he'll be putting those X's and O's down him. then he'll stick it in his pocket. And he did that. And what was it? One year he did it, and he swears that scored a winning touchdown on one of the games. I don't know if he had to answer to that or not, but anyway.
But he would draw plays up in church. He would. I remember when I was little.
Yeah.
Over at the old church.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Course,
that was really important to him.
Oh.
It was, and the service was important too, but there'd be something he'd just be maybe at ease or something.
Yeah.
And just thinking.
But no,
you know.
Going to church was important.
Yeah.
Mom can tell you,
Yeah.
her and Dad both taught Sunday school.
Yes, for about 25, 30 years. And both of our kids had over a 12-year perfect attendance in Sunday school.
Let's
and
go.
if we ever went anywhere on vacation or we were gone on Sunday morning, we would stop and go to church.
Find a church.
Find a church to go to so they could keep up their perfect attendance.
Yeah.
And
I knew it was.
Didn't act like it.
no, we won't talk to any of his Sunday school teachers, but, you know.
Hey, just imagine what we would have been without Sunday school.
Amen. Amen. So, yeah.
I knew it was important to y'all because I know when I started coming to church at Sulphur, I knew right where you two were sitting. It was about the same spot. Every time I'd go down the aisle, I'd see him right there on the aisle on my left. We sat down in front of you guys, and I knew that was really important because when I first come to Sulphur to do FCA, he said, "Well, I got Bill Leverage. What are you doing up here?" You know, he's giving me a hard time. "You from Davis?" He said, "Don't take a picture of that whiteboard. I know you're from Davis." But I wanted to make sure that, because that was a big part of his life. Was
Right.
We know he was football, but
He always went to church. He always read his Bible daily
yeah,
before he ever left to go, after he'd retired. And after I retired and was home, he'd always read his Bible.
yeah.
Like he'd put 12 to 12:30. He would sit there and read his Bible, and then he'd close it and he'd head off to the football field. So.
What was maybe this is, I don't think I asked y'all this last time. I'm just thinking about it now, but what was a Coach Dixon hobby that might not everybody knew about? You have any hobbies that you
when I was younger and in high school, he'd work down at the field in the school mowing, weed eating, and then I'd be waiting with the fishing poles as soon as he came home.
Perfect.
Every day, wouldn't we, Mom?
Yeah.
We'd go out to old Jerry Wells's place.
Yeah.
Almost every day. Or we'd meet up with old Mickey Warren.
Yeah.
He would take us to a new place.
Somewhere where they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's the best fishing.
Oh yeah.
So fishing was it.
Oh yeah. He loved to fish.
Yeah.
And going back on the church stuff, and I'm going after he passed away, I got his Bible, and he had only read through the Old Testament one time.
Yeah.
But the New Testament, every time he'd go through, and I think he read it over 20-something times.
That's awesome.
And then Revelation, he had read over 40 times. So, he was really interested in, what was going to come of the earth. And and his favorite verse was Jim 3:16, "Thou shalt not fumble." And he had it wrote up there on the board for years. And I've got a picture of it. I didn't take the picture, but somebody else had took a picture.
Yeah.
And I seen him put something on. It was a post or Facebook or something, and I was like, "Hey, you got to send me that," because that was one I didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know that I've got the shirt, the Coach Dixon shirt. And when we first got those shirts, the first shirt that said faith, family, football.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the order right there. Faith, family, football. And I think that was so fitting for him, was faith, family, football. Well, that's so the hobbies, he liked to go fishing. That's phenomenal.
He loved fishing.
He said he didn't have time. A good coach didn't have time to have hobbies. That's what he'd say. He could be watching film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were talking last time, speaking of watching film, about when they used to have to go to trade film, and you were telling about having to drive to the city
Yes.
and get in line?
Yes. Now, where was it? Edmond?
Yeah, it was up in North Edmond.
North
Oh, my
Edmond.
gosh.
I need to find out that man's name. It was the old tin building in the back of his house.
Yeah.
And if they really had a film that they wanted, they'd take it up there. If not, they would go to Davis and put it on the midnight bus that was headed to the city. And then they'd usually be over there about 8 the next morning with the bus coming back to get the film off of it.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
if he was in a hurry or there was something that was in it that he really wanted to study, or he would take it up there and wait on it. You'd get up there and get in line, and I guess it was, they'd all sit out there and visit while their films were developed
Golly.
or
I
whatever.
wish I could have sat out there with a microphone.
So, yeah.
There's probably some stories told.
Though reel to reel, yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
So they had to put it, they would film it, take it up there, they'd put it on the reels for him, and then bring it home, and he'd fire it.
yeah.
16 millimeter. I think they still got one down there at the school, at the old field house.
That's awesome.
No, it's out in the garage.
It's at the field house. For
Yeah, it's at the
anyone
field house. I'm
wondering.
sorry.
It's at the field house. He had kept all those films down there from all those years.
Yeah.
We were talking about my senior year, and I said, we was talking about a call that Coach Dixon got upset about.
Nah.
And they said, well, it was you. He said, was it pass interference? And I said, well, I don't.
No.
I'm kind of like Reggie in that Cheeto incident. I don't really remember, I don't know. And they said, well, you watch it on film? I said, nope, our film broke. And
Wonder.
yeah, exactly. I said, our film was gone. We watched film on Winniewood coming up. I said, we didn't even get to see it, And Heath Gilbert goes, well, you're in luck.
Oh.
And so he goes over there in this amazing archive of footage over there. He opened them cabinets up, and there's reel to reel all the way to DVDs.
VHS,
Yes.
all the way up.
It was amazing.
There's a bunch of them
And
over there.
I watched Coach Dixon one day watch a play for probably, I like to visit. So I was probably in there 30 minutes at least. And he was watching one play. And so I finally got the nerve up, to ease over there and ask him what he was watching. And he said, it was an extra point. And he said, I'm watching right here. He said, I think he's stepping the wrong way, or maybe he's moving. He told me all about it. He's, well, that one point matters. Them details matter. Yeah. And he said, if we can get something on that deal right there, I think we can put a guy here, do this, that, and that, And I was like, okay, that is attention to detail.
And that's what he was doing a lot of the times. I'd go down there and he'd have his paper out, and he'd like I told you last time, he would grade the opponents, and he would grade our kids too.
Yeah.
But he would always have a A plus, A, and he would go all the way down to average is kind of where he would go. But yeah, and that's what Chad Gilbert, he would always be like, hey, what's he? I want to know what he's grading our kids. I ain't telling you. Well, maybe next week after we play you guys, I'll go in there and tell you what so and so.
Yeah.
I just want to know those linemen I'm coaching. What kind of
how
he's grading them.
Sure you do, Chad. Chad would never do anything to get a leg up. No. Surely not.
Not Chad.
That was another town that had a really good football team that was blessed with Murray County guys over there coaching.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to go back just a little bit. I love to chase rabbits, so
it's easy.
Yes, it is. So I want to go back. If you'll think back to when you was a young coach's wife, and this is just for any young coaches' wives that are watching. Your husband coached. How many games did Coach Dixon win in high school football? Do you remember, Reggie? Mm-hmm. How many wins we got?
351.
So 351 wins.
And a bunch of losses too.
Well,
But
I'm just thinking about we've got 351 wins on Friday nights.
Not counting the losses.
Not counting the losses. and not counting the wins on Monday nights, all them 6th, 7th, and 8th, and all those games, it had to be thousands of games. What advice would you give to a young coach's wife that's kind of just starting this journey of my husband is gone Tuesday from when he leaves the house at 7 in the morning till he gets home at, what time we get home last night, Reggie? 11 o'clock or so, to 11 o'clock. What advice would you like to?
Well, first of all, you better love him and love him good, and be ready to put up with a lot of, nights without anybody, and, you just got to give and take. He'll give, you have to take. If that's what he wants to do, that's what he's going to do, and, you need to accept it, I guess, and, there'll be other things. Mine would always make sure that we went somewhere at least one day or one evening a week, and just for us. Yeah. Even when the kids were little, we'd have a babysitter at least once a week, and if we didn't do anything but, go to the show or go out to eat, or we would make a time, and as we got older, I think Thursdays noon were our, we'd go to eat somewhere. Yeah. And then Saturday always, and we'd get up and go walk, and we'd go eat, and then he'd say, now, I know you're ready to go to the field house. So he'd bring me home, and I'd start thinking about what I was going to cook for Sunday lunch, because we always went to Sunday school and church, but he always liked to eat and be gone by 1. Yeah. So you have to have it pretty well ready, and then he'd say, I'll see you. I said, yeah, you'll see me when you see me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is such valuable knowledge to all these. I see a bunch of young guys, and they're starting families, and their wives come to the game, and kids are running around everywhere, and they're just wide-eyed, and they're going, whew, what have I gotten myself into? But I know that you made a lot of those trips on the Yellow Dog with Reggie. I know you've rode a few miles in the bus seat.
Yep, been there, done that. I didn't, at one time I had missed but about, I think, 9 or 10 games. Yeah. That's high school.
In all those years.
In all those years, yeah.
A couple of them probably came when you had two little 17 months apart.
I think a couple of them were bad weather. I can remember standing in line over at Davis one year in the rain to get in. Yeah. Holding both the kids, on both, and standing in water. And I'm like, now that I think back, I think, good gosh, they would have played that game with or without me, but I was supporting my husband. I was there. Yeah. So,
I know he appreciated it too. He
did.
Saw you.
He'd tell me he did.
Yeah. Well, what about, speaking of that, what advice can you give to a coach? And because a lot of times nowadays I see families that are couples that are the husband's coaching and the wife's coaching. So what advice would you give to a coach or a family of coaches that's raising kiddos while being a coaching family, I guess?
Goodness, I don't know. Try to tell each other you love them, and do the best you can, follow them, and go to church when you can.
That's perfect.
Tell everybody you love them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that your kiddos. I got to talk to Amy the other day during football season. I'd never really got to talk to her. Didn't really know her before, and she said, "Hey, I like your podcast." So I sat down and got to visit with her. So everybody around here is awful thankful of you two and Amy sharing your dad and your husband for so many years with all of us. We know that's a big part of Coach Dixon is everybody that he's poured into.
Oh yeah.
What a legacy.
There's been a lot of kids.
Whole lot, yeah. Amy's crew said that they would always try to leave early on Friday. And they said they had never figured out how in the world her daddy could hear them going down the hall. Said that about the time they got halfway, he knew they were hiding down the hall. He'd say, "Okay, Amy, y'all get back to class." And so one of them said, "How in the world does he know that's us?" For some reason, he did. So,
Well, we can't finish this up without talking about. I had a couple questions. Somehow we've got to bring up the dancing in the locker room video.
Yeah.
Can you tell the story on that, Reggie?
It was 2015 or 2016. I cannot remember. It was Cole Palmer's senior year.
Yeah.
And we played John Marshall in districts, and they beat us up
Yeah.
at John Marshall. They had a big old, man, I think his name was Tremonda Moore.
Yeah.
Big old lineman.
Yeah.
He broke 2 collarbones, both starting running backs we had, in one game.
in one game.
And we barely get beat up there. And then we get second place in the district. We go and win our first round game, and they didn't switch brackets back then.
Yeah.
So we had to go,
Met
even
'em
though we was
again.
the number 2 team, we had to go play the number 1 team. We had to go back to John Marshall.
Yeah.
And Dad told those guys, he said, "I'll dance for y'all if y'all win." And we barely won.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those deals. It came down to the very end of the game, and it was like 4th and 1, and
Pass.
I think everybody in the place knew Palmer was going to get the ball, and he come up short, and they didn't have very much time, and they throw one, I think, out of the back of the end zone, and the guy catches it, but he don't get in, and we win. And after the game was when he danced, and Coach Keith up there, he told me that Dad had told him one time that was his favorite win.
That was his favorite win.
No.
And he got to dance in the locker room.
You go and play for championships and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, that's just, that's crazy to
Yeah.
think that.
It meant a little something to
man,
him.
I'm telling you.
Hey,
Yeah.
for him to offer up, I'm going to dance in the locker room for you.
Yeah. And Robert Thomas found music, and he did like the.
Well, and Robert was the one that filmed it. He's the one, I had him send that to me. Yeah.
Would it be all right if that showed up somewhere in this?
I mean, that's him in a nutshell. I
Yeah.
mean, people see him on that sidelines and think, man, he's an old grumpy guy.
Yeah.
But he really wasn't. I
Yeah.
mean, if you just got to talk to him just like you did,
Yep.
he loved talking to younger coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that he would, people would come up to him and talk to him X's and O's, this and just about life, and he loved to talk to people about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, he loved people and he loved to talk.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could tell some pretty good stories too.
He was a great
He was a
storyteller.
good story, and he's a pretty good joke teller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't throw any softballs up around him, because if you said something that was kind of,
he's gonna get you.
yeah, he was gonna. There was a lot of those times people just like, what did you? What? Can't believe you said that. Probably wasn't politically correct some of the times, but I mean that's just him. That's just him. I mean, he loved life.
There's not a guy that I know that when I see them, they figure out where I'm from, where I live, or my girls go to school here, and they say, "Oh, and they'll tell me a Coach Dixon story, and it's crazy to me because it's always not just a story about him, but something that he gave to them. Like he told me one time, it wasn't I saw him or I've heard he did this. Like he invested in so many people because of what you just said. He liked to share, he liked to talk and just pour into people, and it didn't matter where y'all's at. I'm sure that y'all had to be the last ones to leave everything.
Yeah. They like to, when we were at the clinic, they had the president has a big room, and they'd say, Coach Dixon's holding court tonight at 6. And that all come down there just, if nothing else, to hear him laugh and carry on, because he had a fun laugh.
You know, that's kind of when you wish they did have cell phones and cameras and stuff, so you could go back and see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's probably glad. We're all probably glad, because there's no telling what was said or what was being done in there while they were telling their stories.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. One of my favorite Miss Dixon stories, if I can tell this, was you would come with Coach Dixon to clinic, and I was supposed to be at the FCA table, but I was working hard at work, slaving away. I was on the golf course. And Miss Dixon comes by, and she got her some FCA swag, some gear, and left me a note. Said, I come down to see you, but of course you was off playing golf, and I still got it in my golf bag. Because it always makes me laugh. I go to get my divot fixer, and I see that note. Come by and see it, but she's playing golf.
Wait, and I said, nah, he should have been here. That's his,
Put that shirt on his tab.
Yeah.
I got a running tab up there. I'll never outwork, so I'm not too worried about
All
it.
right.
Okay, one last thing. I asked you last time, Reggie, what was your favorite memory from playing for your dad?
Man, I just enjoyed playing for him. Every game was great, but I think probably when we were the very first team that ever made the semifinals.
Yeah.
We got to go up at Moore and play in the semifinals. We'd been close before, but we go up there and we get beat by Frederick, which they were way better than we were.
Yeah.
But they told us all week, hey, we're gonna win, and they probably knew we can't play with those guys. But that was one of them, and just getting to see him, coach and interact, and even nowadays, it didn't matter win or lose. After every football game, he went around that locker room and shaked every kid's hand.
Yeah.
Every game.
Yeah. It makes a big difference on a kid's life.
And that's what you get. You just get, they're just sold out on you.
Mm-hmm.
They're pouring into you, and you want to just give them all you got.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well, I'm just so thankful for y'all, and so thankful for y'all being on here, and so thankful for you sharing Coach Dixon with us all for so long, and we really appreciate it. So I'm going to let y'all get to Paul's Valley so you can watch some junior high basketball now, and I might have to sneak over there myself.
Well, and I want to tell you, we appreciate you, and we appreciate this podcast.
Yes.
And I tell a lot of people about it. Hey, get on there and watch. You need to check this out, because it is interesting. And even though you go out, and some of the people I know that you go and talk to, and even the ones I don't, it's interesting just to hear other people talk about, just touching kids' lives. And it ain't all about winning and losing.
No, that's right.
It's not. It's the big wins like you do, FCA, man, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's about the life and families.
Yeah. Well, I do it because of, I had your dad pegged and your husband pegged. It's like, that's Coach Dixon. He's scary. He's from Sulphur, and he don't like me. And we talked for, it was an hour and a half. And I realized how far I missed the mark on Coach Dixon. And I go, everybody's got to know these coaches better, because they've made such an impact on my life. Coach Dixon made an impact on my life. I didn't even play for him. Yeah. So I just thought.
And heck, we could go on forever, but he not only did he love all the kids that he coached, but those coaches he coached with. Mm-hmm. They all meant something to him.
Yeah.
And that was the deal. And he'd tell them too. And I think that's another thing you need to do. Tell the people around you that you love them.
Yeah.
And you care about them. Because you never know when they ain't going to come home.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank y'all. I really appreciate it. I love y'all, and I really appreciate y'all doing this.
Well, thank you.
So we'll do a part 2 that'll actually be a part 3. and I've been watching this thing, and it's been on the whole time.
Oh, okay.
So we win.
Hey, well, that's all right. Hey, we'll do it again. It ain't bothering us. Hey, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Good.
I
Thank y'all so
enjoy it.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
We could probably think some more.
Yeah, good. I'm in.
Pipe it up! Pipe it up! Pipe it up! Pipe it up!
Man, we haven't done an episode like that, y'all. That is powerful. That was so fun. We got to sit down, and when we got done, they were on the way to a basketball tournament, and we got done, and Mrs. Dixon opened up a couple of Coach Dixon's Bibles. And I want you to know that if you were ever in his Sunday school class, he has your name in his Bible. He had every year that he coached Sunday school, and names of all the boys that were in his Sunday school class. He had names of every year that he coached football. Out beside it was one special player from that year. I mean, it was just such a cool thing to get to see. And again, I just want to thank the Dixon family for sharing their dad and their husband for so many years and for sharing with us today. Hey, thank you, each and every one of you that's made it this far. Thank you so much for watching all my videos and liking everything on social media and sharing it. It means the world to me, and I just can't thank you enough. MW Outdoor Power and Engine Repair, Bromide Mountain, Gary Ashford, thank you guys so much. I just want to let you know, y'all know I work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, 100% fundraised ministry. Everything we do is raised by donors like you, and I appreciate you. If you haven't become part of my team, I would love to have you. My donation link is under this in the show notes. Just click on it and join my team. I would love it, and I'm so thankful for you. Hey, we're going to do a couple more for this year, and then we'll start out 2024 with a bang. I can't wait. So, in the meantime, till I see you again, remember, God loves you. We love you. Now go make a difference. You guys have a good one.